Hey, everybody. Nicole Kaufman here, the right therapist. Quick question for you. Do you know what's going on in your kids' school? Do you? I've got a really good story ready to tell for you today. A very personal story, actually, because I had something happen to me with my child a number of years ago, and I'm going to tell you all about that today. And also, I want to relay with you what is happening here in the news. So, we are the conservative take and the right therapist. Happy to come at you today on this beautiful spring North Carolina day. And I wanted to talk with you today about what is happening in the schools. Now, what we are seeing unprecedented is parents becoming more active in their child's education, becoming more active at school boards, and being quite interested in the curriculum and what is being promoted in their child's classroom at school. And this has a lot to do with what is being promoted, what is being taught, and actually what is being withheld from you, the parents, at your child's school. So my story, I'm going to tell you right now. So a number of years ago, full disclosure, I am divorced, and my child's father decided that my child was ADHD. Now, as a divorced parent, and this is what I want to throw out there for all of you guys to keep in mind, is that as a divorced parent, in your custody agreement, you should have, if you split custody and primary care of that child evenly between the two of you, mother and father, then you each have 50% say in what happens with that child medically, educationally, spiritually, when it comes to extracurricular activities, etc. So with this in mind, my child's school did have a copy of this divorce document in my child's school record. And one day, and literally one day, I have to put this in context. This was rather out of the blue for my child. My child's father just decided that my child was exhibiting the features and symptoms of the mental health disability that is attention deficit disorder and or attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, this was at a time in my professional life when I was already a therapist. And so he decided that this was the case for my child. And to that end, he went to the school where my child was attending, and he had the teachers evaluate my child for these two mental health conditions. There is a very brief survey that the teachers fill out to determine from what they see, is this child exhibiting these symptoms in the classroom? So there are three criteria for this. The child has to exhibit a number of these symptoms, either in the classroom, at home, or in social settings. All right. The other one is at work, but it's a child, so the work aspect of this doesn't count. And the survey is kind of a bad survey, in my opinion, because there is a way to game and to mark the survey in order to get the results that you want. That is always the sign of a bad test, that if we mark the results accordingly, we know the outcome we're going to come with. An actual good survey is one that you mark it and there are enough double-blind questions there that the results will come out and the results are good. Anyway, the school went ahead and evaluated my child with the survey in the school and did not tell me that they were doing this. Neither did my child's father. Okay, keep in mind that I did have a 50% say, or at least should be made aware of what is going on for my child educationally. And if we are evaluating him for mental health issues, that I should be informed that this is happening. So, long story short, what happened was that my child was diagnosed, or we got these surveys back. my ex-husband hot-footed down to my child's pediatrician. My child's pediatrician then served up a diagnosis as such for this mental health disorder. And then my child was medicated without my consent. I was informed of this mental health diagnosis, and the medication was given and administered to my child before I was even aware of anything that was going on. My child was given this medication and already had it down his little throat before I was even aware of what was going on. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I went nuts. I went absolutely crazy for all of the reasons that you can imagine, notwithstanding the ones that I just told you. From a clinical perspective, right? If we believe that something is going on in terms of mental health with a child, we have him or her evaluated by a mental health expert before administering medication. Or at least that would be the preference. Can a pediatrician, administer a mental health diagnosis? I guess they can. Obviously, my child's pediatrician felt that she could, and she did. But as a parent, I would want them fully evaluated before that ever happened. And I'm just going to throw in a side note here that my child's guidance counselor did not evaluate my child in an academic setting for said mental health disorder. It was simply done between the teachers, his father, and the pediatrician. The guidance counselor was not at all involved in this, and neither was I until after the fact, after the diagnosis was given. So I did go nuts. I will tell you that right now. I got the pediatrician fired. I had immediate conferences with the school and the teachers and administrators to talk with them about what was going on. I spoke with the principal accordingly. I don't know if I even spoke with a guidance counselor. I probably did, if I remember correctly. This was almost 10 years ago that this happened. But the reason I'm relating this story, because I am getting so worked up right now, even just talking about this incident, is that I want to relay to you what is happening now in schools with parents with the mental health conditions of their children. So, according to a report by the American Enterprise Institute, a school district in Madison, Wisconsin, released guidelines instructing teachers to allow students to change their names and pronouns without their parents' consent. I'm going to let that sit with you for just a minute, because if you're a parent, that should not sit well with you at all. Now, I want you to think back to the governor's race in Virginia, in Loudoun County, Virginia, when that YouTube video went viral with that parent. It was a father who stood up in a school board meeting and protested against the gender-neutral bathrooms that Loudoun County, Virginia was promoting at the time. And the Daily Wire eventually broke the report that this child's daughter had been sexually assaulted in one of the bathrooms at the school, and the school actually hid and did not inform this father about the incident that had happened. The child, there was nothing done toward the child. This was actually a high school. And so the child was transferred to another school very surreptitiously. And it all broke later on when Governor Glenn Youngkin ran for office, and suddenly schools and parents parents being aware of what was happening in those schools became a real political and social issue. And that is what we're seeing right now, folks. And I don't know if any of the rest of you have had any kind of experiences with things happening in your child's school and then not being made aware of this. But this has been happening for quite some time, whether it was the ADD or ADHD craze, where we overdiagnosed and overmedicated a number of mostly boys in the last 10 years. And actually the propensity to overmedicate and diagnose minority children is really off the charts if we get into the research. But these lawsuits are happening, folks, where people are actually encouraging or suggesting to students, very young students, middle school and high school students, that they should question their sexuality, that they should consider transitioning. And this information is kept from parents until after the fact. All right. So even just today, there was a lawsuit. It says parents' lawsuit claims schools secretly helped kids adopt new gender identities. And the complaint states that Foot and Silvestri, these are the names of the parents, have sincerely held religious beliefs that human beings are created male and female, and that the natural created order regarding human sexuality cannot be changed regardless of individual feelings, beliefs, or discomfort with one's identity and biological reality as either male or female. So these two parents had extremely clearly stated views on how they felt about sexuality and gender identity. The school basically ignored this. The school basically kept their child's information or their child's complaint or their child's mental health distress from them. I don't want to say that all schools are evil, that confidentiality shouldn't be a thing, but we have to look really closely at this, folks, because this same lawsuit here it goes even further to say that it describes an assignment that was given to students in September of 2019 by a librarian, which allegedly asked students to create videos of preferred gender pronouns. Now, when you're asking students to make videos and you're giving school assignments that involve students exploring alternative views of sexuality, that is nothing if not promoting alternative views of sexuality. And that is where parents should have a voice, all right? Or at least the decision to opt out, okay? So I'm going to keep this really short today, but if you don't know what's going on in your kid's school, and if you're not looking at these assignments and keeping an eye on what is coming across as far as assignments and suggestions for your child to consider with their academic progress in school, because if the child decides not to do that, or is like, I don't think I really have any other pronouns or whatever, I mean, this is school. You're expected to do the assignments that the teachers give you, right? So if you say, yeah, no, I'm not doing that, the social pressure of being a young teenager and to say, yeah, I don't want to do that, that is not very well regarded either by teachers and or the students, because what we're supposed to do, these adults are in positions of power. Okay. So all this to say, if you are not being hawkish about what is happening at your child's school, whether it's gender neutral bathrooms, whether it's gender inclusive languaging, whether it's making videos about what it might be like to be the opposite sex, then you are not paying attention. And folks, we need to start paying attention, because if it is that you have very clearly identified views on what is male and female in your household, and you would like that to continue forth in your child's education, then you need to know what's going on. So I would get real active real quick and start having conversations with your child about, all this stuff coming up with trans and LGBTQ and all these, 30 different kinds of ways that we can be human beings. How do they talk about that at your school? It's a very simple question. And then hopefully your child tells you, hey, we don't really talk about that at all. Or they will tell you that they talk about it in specific ways. And what I'm finding across the board is that nobody is not talking about it. I have yet to hear about the incident where nobody's talking about it. All right, that's my take on today. You've got the right therapist. You go and have yourself a great weekend.